A few weeks ago, the Austrian Supreme Court ruled that the presidential elections ought to be repeated, even though no evidence of voter manipulation was found. The fact that they started counting faster than they should have was enough for the court to cancel the whole thing. A few days ago, the same court decided that the long-assumed privilege of the religion of special needs to disregard the European culture whenever they please, anywhere in Europe, actually does not apply to Austria. Now, is there a common-sense counter-revolution by the judiciary? Perhaps. Let's explore. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Freedom Alternative. Now, common sense revolution or not, it's getting increasingly obvious that Austria is not taking guidance from Germany, even though they speak the same language, but rather from its geographical and historical partners, at least when it comes to dealing with progressives, progressive policies, and the religion of peace. The local Austria titles, "Austria rules face veil ban at work is not discriminatory," and goes like this, quote, "One of Austria's highest courts has ruled that companies who ban the wearing of face veils are not discriminating against their employees. The case was heard by the Supreme Court concerns a Muslim woman who was dismissed from her job after she told her bosses she wanted to wear a full face veil in the future. The woman, who already wore a headscarf and the overgarment known as the abaya, also said her company discriminated against her while being assigned work tasks due to her religious dress. She also accused her boss of making discriminatory comments, including saying she was carrying out an experiment in ethnic clothing. The first court recognized the case was likely discriminatory but did not make a legal judgment after deciding further clarification was needed and passing it up to a higher court. The Supreme Court, the OGH, agreed that the woman was probably discriminated against when it came to being given duties at work, which was further worsened by the comments from her boss. When it came to wearing a face veil, however, the court ruled that the employer was allowed to ban them if they prevent communication and interaction between employers, employees, and clients. In its ruling, the court said leaving the face uncovered is one of the undisputed basic rules of communication in Austria. They concluded that the stubborn refusal to comply with her employer's rules meant it was not discriminatory to dismiss the woman from the job. The woman was awarded 1,200 euros of the 7,000 euros compensation she was seeking. Now, considering the circumstances, the court did the best it could. And by circumstances, I am of course referring to the completely retarded and fundamentally anti-capitalist rules of anti-discrimination, which in reality all they do is enrich the lawyers. Because you see, if I want to discriminate, I will do it regardless of what the law says. Extensive anti-discrimination laws simply mean that I have to ask a lawyer to write a more politically correct letter of dismissal as opposed to simply being, honest. So instead of firing this troublemaker, for instance, with an honest, "You get out of here with this kebab agitprop, you pretentious cretin," I just pay a few shekels to a lawyer to write a letter in which it is being explained to the said pretentious cretin that her clothes prevent communication and that's a basic thing because potato, or whatever. De facto, the result is the same. But anyway, the ridiculousness of the anti-discrimination laws notwithstanding, it is worth noting the way the court framed this. Now let me quote this again. "Leaving the face uncovered is one of the undisputed basic rules of communication in Austria." In other words, it's our culture. Now this could prove to be quite significant on the long run. Now, as far as I know, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I suspect I'm not, as far as I know, this is likely the first time a court of any significance in a European country has put it in plain language that the native culture must be upheld to the detriment of any other. And it is definitely the first time this has been ruled against a representative of the religion of special needs. Until now, we were accustomed with rulings that increased the privileges of aliens and eroded even the most basic rights of the natives. Let's not forget that Europe is rife with cases of Christians being banned from wearing their religious symbols by their employers for fear of causing offense, and the courts siding with the employer. Now, since the civil law, which governs the continental Europe, does not allow legislating from the bench, as the common law system does, the best thing justices can do is precisely what these folks did in Austria. At the very least, stand up for the local culture, as opposed to completely alien elements of completely alien cultures. Hey, it's something. Now, if you were to ask me, I would abolish all the anti-discrimination laws today because, as I said last year, discrimination is a good and moral thing practiced by 100% of the population several hundred times a day. Pretending that such a normal and moral judgment can be banned or significantly curtailed through the force of the law shows the hubris of so many of the control freaks and the do-gooders that occupy too much of the political establishments all over this old continent. Now, I asked in the intro, is there a common sense counter-revolution by the judiciary going on? Well, I don't know, and nobody knows. But here's what we know. The Austrian Supreme Court made 2 entirely commonsensical rulings just this month alone. Now, that's a lot more than the European Union Court in 20 years. You know, that same court that told us in 1997 that state-sponsored misandry is perfectly okay. 2 sane rulings in 1 month is also a lot more than most Supreme Courts of most of Europe in the same period. So I guess there is some hope that maybe not everyone is insane, at least not yet, and I do suspect that once the EU collapses, and it will, don't worry Europhiles, even your sorry lot knows that. Anyway, I suspect that once the EU collapses under its socialist weight, a lot more of the good old common sense will come back a lot faster. We'll get to see that. But until then, we'll be here to provide the counter-narrative and promote alternative thought. Thank you for watching.